Guys, welcome back. This is Eric here with Guitarsenal. Goofing around a little bit here. We're just going to be demoing a vintage guitar. This is a 1976 Music Man StingRay 1. This is pre-Ernie Ball, okay? A lot of guys associate the Music Man Ernie Ball name with modern Ernie Ball guitars and Ernie Ball Music Man products, but this was basically pre-Ernie Ball, okay? This was back when, I guess, Leo Fender and his business partners owned the company. And so basically what happened was Leo Fender signed a non-compete agreement with Fender when he sold the Fender company. And he couldn't engage in business in the music industry for 10 years after he sold the company. So around, the mid-70s, once, I guess that 10-year agreement, he sold Fender back in '67. So around the mid-70s, a lot of his projects started to kind of come to light a little bit. And Leo Fender teamed up, started the Music Man company. There was a few little sort of iterations of that company that came to be beforehand, but it eventually became known as the Music Man company. And they had a series of different basses, guitars, amplifiers, all under the Music Man name. And they're basically Leo Fender designs. And this is one of Leo Fender's guitar designs, okay? Very, very drastic change over what you saw with the Stratocaster, the Telecaster, and other Fender products. Leo was known to have high frequency hearing loss, and one of the things that Leo did with this guitar, and why these particular guitars weren't quite as successful as some of the others out there, is they're voiced really, really, really bright, like 1 meg tone pots, super bright sounding pickups, really low wound pickups that have almost a pedal steel type output in terms of their brightness. Combine that with a maple neck, ash body, you're getting into nuclear territory on the brightness. Now, some players liked them, some didn't. The guitars weren't quite as successful, but the basses took off really well, and a lot of the vintage Music Man basses, they bring some serious money. Ernie Ball Company, as we know today, I guess they bought the Music Man name. So Ernie Ball still, to this day makes variants of the StingRay, variants of, the different guitars that they came out with over the years, This one's known as the StingRay. It's a double cut. It is a very heavy guitar, and the electronics were not very successful. This is one of the first guitars to utilize active electronics. Okay, I'm going to go through some of the sounds. Hopefully I'm not terribly, let me clear this loop. Okay. I'm going to go through the sounds. I'm going to try my best to explain the way the electronics work. Okay, so it's a little weird. You've got obviously humbucking pickups, which are their own kind of animal. Very similar pickups to what you see in the bass guitars of the era. And those were insanely popular basses, very punchy sound with the bass and everything. So basically with the controls, you have a master volume. And the nice thing about the master volume on this guitar is it really does clean up nicely. So it really, I don't know if it has built-in, I guess, treble bleed, but it is active. so it cleans up nicely. If I max the volume out, okay, back that off a bit, still nice and jangly. Okay, you've got a switch here that gives you a treble boost as if you don't need it already, right? It is also an audible sort of, I guess let's just call it a volume boost as well. Here's without. All right, so that's a boost. Now, it's going to be hard to explain. This knob controls the tone. All right, now I said this guitar was bright, right? The sound that you heard in the intro and the sound of what I've just played, that's with the tone backed out all the way. Now, I heard a story about these guitars, and I don't know if it's true or not, but I heard that halfway through the sweep of the knob is where a normal guitar would be in terms of brightness. And that these pots were voiced so that halfway through the sweep, it's where a normal guitar would be. So this is halfway through the sweep. All right, now let's increase the tone all the way up to the top. This is going to get a little sparkly here. All right, there's a little bit of noise coming through the amp. I think that is from the guitar. It could be the battery possibly going a little bit dead. It does utilize active electronics, but not a bad sound. It's kind of punchy. All right, so here, this third knob is a blend switch that sort of blends various amounts of these pickups into the signal a little bit. And the best way I can sort of explain it is right here, we've got it on the neck pickup, okay? It's like a bass roll off. It blends the signal between the pickup from bass to treble depending on the amount of sweep you want. So you have a normal tone control. Like if I break that out all the way and increase this, it should sound super muddy, okay? I can leave the tone sweeped out to give it a little bit more punchy sound, and I can blend this back in. If I want more sparkle, increase this about halfway. Okay, now that's not even getting into the different pickup selections. All right, so you have in phase and out of phase for both pickups. All right, this is the neck pickup out of phase. Normal neck pickup. Bridge pickup out of phase. That might be both pickups engaged. This selection should be the bridge pickup out of phase. Very quirky sound that is unique in its own right. So, the tonal options that you get out of the guitar are, I would say, relatively endless, but a lot of players didn't really find these to be incredibly easy to use in terms of their ease of use. The switching system's odd. You can see it's a little noisy in some positions depending on where you have everything set up. You know, this weird treble, not treble, volume, not volume. It's a cool guitar that's really interesting and almost, I would just say, over-engineered a bit. But it's very quirky and it's very cool, but it just didn't really catch on with a lot of people because people are used to a Strat or a Tele where it's just real simple controls. This was a little bit too much for most guitarists. One thing that I will say too is the way that this particular bridge is designed is very, very, very clever in terms of the way that they designed the barrels and basically the saddles. And the way that it's mounted to the body in combination with the ash body and the maple slab give it a very, very ringing characteristic. It is such a wonderful instrument in terms of how well it's made. It is a very well-made guitar, and it was just as good as anything that Fender was putting out in the 70s, for sure, if not maybe even better in terms of build quality in some cases. This guitar does utilize a truss rod. It is a three-bolt plate with a micro tilt adjustment, just like 70s era Fenders, obviously, at the time. So it has very many characteristics that are Stratocaster-like and Telecaster-like. I mean, you can see right here, if I engage this sound right here, I think we can all agree that this is very Telecaster-like, middle position Telecaster. Right? That's very Telecaster-like. So you get some Tele tones out of it. The out-of-phase stuff, now you're getting into territory that you really can't exactly get out of a standard Stratocaster or Tele. You know what I mean? So it does kind of scratch some unique tonal itches, if you will. One thing, the active electronics of this guitar are very, very, very high output. Compared to a Stratocaster or a Tele, if one detriment I see to this guitar, if you're integrating it into, let's just say, a stage setup, you're going to play and you just want to have a quirky, cool old guitar like this, is that all of your settings, as they're set up for a Strat or a Tele, you're going to have to dial the amp down considerable amount, at least 1 or 2 notches, to account for the hot pickups in this guitar. So that is one detriment. Ernie Ball does make a new version of the StingRay, which we probably will get a hold of. Now, one thing that Ernie Ball did on the newer StingRay is they made a much more simple, just tone and volume and selector. It still has a metal plate. If you look up the newer Ernie Ball StingRays, they do have the kind of little metal plate. They got a pick guard. They're similar in terms of their fashion, but this is where everything started for that particular instrument. This is pre-Ernie Ball. Right here, but the new ones have just a basic tone and volume and then a pickup selector. So maybe we'll get a hold of one of those to check out and show you guys. I mean, they have like roasted maple necks. They have some really cool finishes that they're doing in them. The headstock design on the newer Ernie Balls is different than this original one. This one has inline Fender style with sort of a big 70s style headstock, just like you would see on most Strats of the era. The newer Music Man Ernie Balls have the 3-in-3 arrangement, which is typical for most Ernie Ball guitars now. But anyway, we wanted to just show this guitar off. It's quirky, it's cool. Is it for everybody? Maybe not. But it is a very interesting part of Fender and Ernie Ball history, I guess you could call it. It's really cool. I dig it. This particular guitar did get a good setup and it needed fresh frets. The frets on this guitar wore out pretty good. It's got brand new jumbo frets, which help facilitate my silly style of bending that I utilize in my playing. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed today's video. This was just meant to be kind of a quick and dirty look at the Music Man StingRay. This is a first gen StingRay. They did do a few different ones throughout the years, but definitely a cool guitar. I appreciate you watching. I'm going to try to make a little more racket with this here Git fiddle here and see if we can have a little fun with the harmonic vibrato. Get in here.